Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes Paul. People might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal!
Good evening, football fans. It's Little Dan here with your latest Wolves Fancast match preview. On tonight's episode, I've got with me Yam Lukey T, and from the Besotted podcast, Billy Grant. I'm going to come to you, Billy. How are things in the life of West London at the moment?
It's all right. It's all right, man. First of all, I want to say thanks so much for inviting me on yet again. I always feel very happy that I come on the podcast on a yearly basis, which means we're still in the league as opposed to playing in another league. So it's all good to be on here again. As we talked about on our podcast, Pride of West London, we've kind of come through the leagues together almost, like, you know, from Division 3 as it is all the way up to the Premier League. So we're sort of on a sort of similar type journey. I mean, you're obviously a few years ahead of us because you got promoted from the Championship faster than what we did, you know, and but we're on a similar journey. But like I said to you, good to be back on your podcast again, lads and lasses. But yeah, it's been great. We've had a good season, you know, probably a slightly surprising season for us. I mean, we know we did well last season, and our aim was to do better this season. And last season, obviously, I personally, at the start anyway, everyone sort of hopes for finishing 17th. You know, when you look at previous teams, what they've done in the Premier League, you know, your West Broms, you know, your Sheffield United after a couple of seasons, you're sitting there hoping last season that you're going to finish 17th-ish. We did, you know, really well last season, finishing 13th. So I actually put us down in all the predictions in all the newspapers like the Observer and stuff when they come around and ask you what your prediction is. I said, I think we're going to finish 12th this season. And it wasn't doing it because I was trying to be sort of kind of like sort of big-headed or anything like that, but it's just one of those ones thinking, tell you something, let's just go for one better. And as you know, you've been in this league sort of quite a lot. I mean, you did really well in your first season. There's almost like the difference between being sort of 9th and 16th is actually quite small in this division. In a way, it's probably like sort of 2 wins. So I just thought, if we can go for 12, that'd be quite good. But at the moment, you know, we're sort of looking at that top 10. What's more important to us is that we're at the top of the West London mini league, which means that we're beating Fulham, which is the best thing out of all of them. And also we're ahead of Chelsea as well, which obviously you helped to make that happen as well this week. Thank you very much for that. We appreciate that. So that for us is kind of the major thing, that we're in the top of the West London mini league, and we're also on the edge of possibly a European tour as well. But we're actually got an American tour at the end of the season, which everyone's really excited about. We're off to America, you know, playing teams like Newcastle and Brighton up in Atlanta and Philadelphia and Washington. And those are things that, I'm not being funny, as a Brentford fan, you know, we're used to sort of going down to Boreham Wood, you know, for our pre-season. So this is a bit of a flip.
It's nice, that is, though, isn't it? Like you mentioned as a Brentford fan. I remember when Wolves went to Asia a couple of years ago. And, you know, when I was growing up, if we went to Ireland, it was a treat. You know, because if you play like Crewe, Warsaw, might play a couple of teams in Scotland, but yeah, when your team starts to sort of play these tournaments in Asia and America, that's when you feel like, yeah, we're a Premier League club now.
Yeah, and it's funny because
you mentioned it, Billy, in regards to like it feels about 15, 20 years ago when we were in League One trying to battle for the title against Leyton Orient. Well, we've got a quiz on that later on in the show. Obviously, we've got the on Saturday, but it just shows how far both clubs have came in such a short space of time, that obviously you guys are going to North America. There's rumours Wolves are going to South Korea for our pre-season tour. We've also got some sort of mini tour in the North America ourselves, some sort of Legends tournament with hashtag United and some random American sides. If you're one of the MLS followers in our channel, let us know if your team's playing against us. Josh Rodriguez has been in the comment section long before we started live saying let's go, and just little damn with lots of exclamation marks. I appreciate your enthusiasm, Josh. Keep commenting in the comment section saying always look forward to these episodes. Thanks for joining us tonight on the the Wolves Fancast match preview.
Yeah. I mean, just
Big
saying
news
that just quickly because I'm an MLS. I like my MLS actually, and what I'm going to say to you is I don't know where you're playing, but I could if you tell me where you're playing, I'm going to go. I could say to you, yes, that's good or that's bad. If you're going to Charlotte, I think that'll be good because they've got a new team out there, and the fan base is actually quite lively as well.
It's predominantly Colorado, Bill.
Oh, the Rapids. Okay. All right. Okay. So. It's okay.
Let's go back to Scotland and Sweden on pre-season tour, like the old days.
That's right. Listen, you can have fun anywhere, is what they say.
It's all about your company, Bill, not your environment.
Exactly. Yeah, you can have fun anywhere.
The big news that we released on our channel this week is that on the 2nd of June this year, Cast have organised a charity football match which will be played at Molineux. We're going to be playing various content creators from other Premier League clubs, and we've got a couple of players from Celtic and Rangers making the trip to Molineux on the 2nd of June. Obviously, the charity that we're playing for on the 2nd of June is the mental health charity Mind. It's a charity which we've been championing and supporting for quite a few years now. Obviously, we've done episodes which yourself, Luke, has been on in regards to mental health. It's a big thing that we're championing. It's a key thing for now. Everyone's struggling in one means or another, whether it's financially, mentally, physically. It's always best to talk. Obviously, more of that for anyone to overcome. So it's a key charity which we're looking forward to. Molineux. It's a man just to play at Molineux, isn't it, Luke?
Yeah,
it's going to be a big day.
It's class. It's class. You can't beat it until you walk on the pitch and realise how big it is, and it humbles you really quickly.
It does, but we had the conversation last time. I mean, I think I was walking like a penguin for like 4 days after the game last time because just how deconditioned we are. I mean, I turned 36 last week. It's a long day since being able to play every day of the week over the park. D. Marsden in the comment section has just asked, do we have a replay on Luke's volley? Question, Dean. I mean, it would be sort of naive of me not to show the goal. Let's take a look at it right here. For the YouTube, so for the audio listeners out there, find it on our YouTube and Twitter page. Look at that for a volley. Look at that for a volley, Bill. I mean, what do you think of that volley, Bill?
Tell you something, oh, there you go. He's got the technique in there as well. He wait for the ball to drop, and then he sort of placed it right in the corner. So I'd give that a bit of a 7 out of 10 as well. Actually, I'd have to say, goalkeeper. I think goalkeeper. If the goalkeeper's in there, I think they might have struggled with that one.
I think, Bill, you can put prime Peter Schmeichel in there. He ain't touching that, mate. He ain't
That's right, man. You got it down to a T. I mean, watching lots of football, I would have expected that, though.
Now you got to get lucky once in every 100.
Obviously, Bill, a goal that was scored at Molineux. A goal that was scored at Molineux last weekend, Bill, against your sort of West London rivals, Chelsea. What did you make to Matheus Nunes' absolute thunder cracker past Kepa, which I'm showing again on the screen here?
I'll tell you something, man. What a goal. I mean, this, I said to you, like I said, that's why we have to, and we'll talk about it later, that's why we have to be careful, man. We're not going to we're not taking anything for granted with any team in this division because you've all got good players, you've got good players. Sometimes it doesn't all click for you. And it might not click for you weeks in advance, weeks in a row, or even months in a row. But, when you see how he scored that against Chelsea, and I shouldn't be chuckling because I'm trying to do the manners thing here. But, but Chelsea, obviously not very happy about that at all. And fair play to Nunes and fair play to Wolves for actually taking 3 points off of Chelsea. And they now have to shuffle the pack and work out which 11 of their 7,425 players they're going to put in next week against the next opposition.
It's a tough job for any manager that comes in at Chelsea at the moment. Frank Lampard's somehow won the lottery twice in a row on the back of managers being sacked at Chelsea. He got what he probably expected with that 2-0 defeat away to Real Madrid earlier on in the week. But I think if I was a betting man, Bill, I'm betting you guys to finish above Chelsea this season the way that they're playing.
like I said to you, the West London Mini League, it's on, and it's quite a fierce competition. Like I said, 4 teams. Like I said, us, then it's Fulham, and then it's Chelsea, and then the fourth one. I have to keep my neck's actually hurting because I'm looking so far down. For QPR, as you know, I mean QPR and Fulham are like sort of kind of like what is Wolverhampton and West Brom sort of thing, kind of for you guys, So looking so far down for the QPR, and to be quite honest with you, the way they're going at the moment now, I could be looking down in Division 1 next season for QPR because Gareth Ainsworth is having a bit of a struggle. And I really like Gareth as well. I met him a couple of weeks ago. I went to a do down at AFC Wimbledon. I went and saw them play, and he was invited to that. And so we sat together and chatted, had a few beers together during the game and after the game as well. And he was telling me the challenge that he's got at QPR. But that's Championship football, which I still feel a lot about Championship football in the EFL, so I can't help talking about it. But we're in the Premier League now, so let's focus back on that again.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, talking of West
you
London,
mentioned sort of QPR and.
Sorry, yeah, I'm loving seeing QPR down there. Can't stand them. Cannot stand them. I remember years ago, I had an argument on Twitter with Tony Incenzo, and he tried to tell me that QPR could sell out Loftus Road 50,000 fans week in, week out, trying to make out that they're this massive club. But they're just crap. They're just such a crap, irrelevant club to me. Can't stand them.
Yeah. I mean, again. Yeah, it's just it's a West London thing. In West London, it's if people around sort of my age in our era, it's Fulham and you may laugh, you think, but Fulham, there's nothing. But Fulham and Brentford is quite quite spiky, a lot of those games, just because back in the 80s and 90s when they used to play each other in the 3rd division, and we were up there and they weren't, and it was just that thing that was going on that time. You know what it's like in those days where you wanted to, any game you needed to win to just get yourself, instead of being 13th in the league, you'll be 11th in the league. So it was so important. So Fulham was a massive game for us. When we go down there, the first time they gave us 7,000 tickets, and literally we took the place over. It was great. So that's good. But QPR, actually, the history with them is that they actually tried to take Brentford over in 1967, which is a long time ago, and you can say many fans won't remember that, but they're still not forgetting. And we've got a person that does our tannoy, a guy called Peter Gillam, and he's one of the longest tannoy readers out in the whole of the football league, all of football. And he actually won't, if you listen to him, he'll just go, Brentford 2, the other team 0, and he actually won't mention QPR at all, and he's never done it. And the whole time he literally does not acknowledge them at all. And a lot of people might think that's quite childish, but that's the way he goes about it, because he remembers, the 1967, the near takeover, where we were that much close away from actually not being a club.
I think one of the funniest things with QPR at the moment is, Luke, is the fact that we had a bit of a needle around the Michael Beale situation.
Yeah.
Obviously, Michael Beale supposedly did he turn us down? I don't think he did. I feel like we weren't going to give him what he felt he needed to do a good job with us. And I think we were still holding out for Lopetegui at the time. Obviously, Michael Beale's gone to Rangers FC because Glasgow Rangers no longer a team in my mind. They're finished. Glasgow Rangers, up the boys. And the fact that QPR are really struggling now with the heartbreaking Gareth Ainsworth in the dugout. It was great to see him pick up a point from 2-0 down against West Brom last week. Bill's mentioned West Brom a couple of times now. I don't know if you two have got any spare change knocking about, because the way they're going, they're going to need it. Let's quickly look at the pre-match press conferences that happened yesterday. Hugh Lopetegui did mention that Daniel Podence will be available after Wolves were granted an extension to his current appeal, which is going through the FA in regards to the situation that happened against Nottingham Forest. Raul Jimenez and Ait Nouri are both fighting for a space in the squad after being dropped last week for tactical reasons. Lopetegui did mention that Brentford are one of the best away teams in the league, but your away form isn't great, Bill. Is that right?
It's okay. It's all right. I mean, our home form is not bad. We did lose the other day against Newcastle, which is the first time that we lost in ages. But to be quite honest with you, it's all right, because I think before all those matches, I think we'd only lost about 6 times this season, in the Premier League, which isn't bad for a team like Brentford. as they say. So, it's one of those ones where, it can go either way for us. What we're really good is that we do change the way that we play when we're away from home. And Thomas Frank does like soaking up a bit of pressure. He does like defending as it is, and then he does like hitting teams. So, there's a chance that we'll change our formation. Whether or not it works or not, we shall see. We went down to Villa. It can go horribly wrong. We went to Villa. We lost 4-0 down there. I think we were 3-0 down after like 15 minutes or 10 minutes or something ridiculous. And then we also went to Newcastle kind of pretty soon, either before or after that. I think it's before that. And we lost 5-1 up there as well. So those were two like, oh my God, this is terrible. And then next we went to Forest, drew 3-3 where we should, I think it's 3-3 or 2-2 where we could have won, but they equalised in the last minute. Then after that, we went to Man City and beat them. So we're kind of one of those strange teams, which, we lose 4-0 one week. Then the next week, we're actually beating Manchester City. So it kind of really, really does depend on how you catch us. But we're a better team, I will say this, in the way that we play our football than we were last season, only because we've learned. We've learnt how to kind of deal with this division. We've learnt that, you've got teams who've got very good players and how you deal with them. So there's a lot of games which we would have lost last season that we're drawing. So you'll see that there's a lot of draws. And there's also, I think, games that we would have drawn last season, which we are winning. So, we played Brighton last week. Our last away game, other than Man United, we don't count that. But we played Brighton a couple of weeks ago and we went to Brighton. And I swear on my life, Brighton were the best team we have played this season. The football they played was phenomenal and they battered us, right? They literally 33 shots, but it's not all about shots because we're a bit of an XG team. So it's like the quality of the shot. So the quality was all right as well. And we just basically came and went, boom, bosh, scored a goal. Boom, here's your weakness, boom, scored a goal. So we went 1-0 up, we went 2-0 up, and then we went 2-1 up, then we went 3-2 up. And it literally was like a minute to go. And they eventually got an equaliser, which was a bit fortunate. But, we just put our hands up because we're football people. And we went, to be fair, we'd have loved to have got 3 points, but we're probably quite lucky to have got away with 1 point because they are actually quite a good side. So we'll, like I said to you, we'll see how it goes. But I know that Wolves players like that you've got, Nunes, you've got great players. So we're going to have to be on the watch out. And if we play that defensive game, we just have to make sure that we don't get outdone.
Can we, for any Wolves fans that are going to be watching the game tomorrow, can we be expecting any more time-wasting tactics? Will the ball being played for more than 45 minutes?
I was just about to jump on this because I've been listening to the Besotted podcast on my commute to and from work this week. And these guys are the epitome of pot and kettle at the moment. Because these guys against Newcastle were moaning about Newcastle time wasting and the dark arts that Newcastle execute in the game. And I've completely forgotten of the levels of dark arts they've done against us previously. David Royer having to change his goalkeeping gloves during the game. The amount of time waste. I think they played I think the one game at home last season was about 42 minutes long.
Yeah.
Pot and kettle Besotted. What's your thoughts on that, Bill?
Basically, I'm going to plead I don't know what amendment there is in America, the 6th or 7th Amendment on that one, because as you could probably tell if you're listening to the podcast, I've been away for the last week. Actually, I was actually in Holland. I manage I set up a girls football team, so we actually went out to Holland for the weekend. So I wasn't even there for the Newcastle game, so I can't really comment, even though I did watch it on my laptop, as you do during the day, about that. And there was. Let's just say that we have got upset about other teams' time management. And then what you do is that you think that, hold on a second, if you can't beat them, you might as well join them. So at times we are basically have worked out how we can get better at time management, because it's, again, talking about kind of like grassroots football. It's like, these kids playing football and sometimes you'll sort of see them and they're winning 1-0. And there's 3 minutes to go, and then the ball goes out, and then the kids goes legging it over from the side, to go take the throw. And you're going, look, just calm down a little bit. It's all right, you can take your time. But because they're sort of very green and they're kind of still new in the game, they don't kind of understand the kind of sort of seeing the game out type thing. I think Brentford used to be that type of team in the Premier League, where we're like, let's get the ball back in, let's try and get up, then let's score another goal, but you're winning 2-0 already, So what I will say though is I think that David Rayer's glove was actually broken, And when he did play you last season, there was a problem with it actually, and also our players did suffer from a lot of cramp, and there was a lot of rolling around and stuff that was going on. The weather was a very hot day as well, so there wasn't enough water.
Kick-off as well, Bill. It was an early kick-off as well, and obviously
that's right.
Conditions that 12.
They're a bit tired. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. They're a bit tired.
Yeah, definitely no excuse.
You make a great politician, Bill.
Just talk briefly, Bill, because obviously I follow you on social media. You actually went to Qatar for the World Cup. You saw the level of officiating there and the use of efficient added time over there. Do you think the Premier League should follow that?
Qatar, on the pitch, the Qatar World Cup was actually not bad in places. I'd say interestingly, what I'd say to you is that Qatar World Cup was the kind of, I thought it started to introduce the kind of, you look at the clock, you think, well, to be quite honest with you, we've got at least 10 minutes of extra time in this game. I'm saying at least, if not, should we get into 15 minutes of extra time? So that was quite bizarre. You sort of think of the efficient use of it. Whether or not it kind of works out, yes or no, I don't know. It is, and I hear what you're saying, because there's always a lot of talk about how the officials, how the technology is brought into the game, and how it's probably not used to its best effect in this country in particular. And I think we are correct. I think that there is an overuse of technology. And I'm not saying we should get rid of VAR, but I think what we've done is that we've introduced the technology, that what that's ended up doing is that we've become so overly reliant on it. You do get these scenarios where, as we talked about before, where you're offsides by a fingernail and the clock gets added on by an extra 7.379247 seconds and everything like that. And I think there needs to be a little bit of tacking back and a little bit more balance, where you still need to rely on the referees and the people who are on the pitch, and then use the technology as kind of a bit of an additional thing that you add on if you are unsure about particular things. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, because that, for me, I think brings it back to football as we know it and as we like it. And listen, if somebody makes a little bit of a mistake, if somebody's toenail is offside, not be funny, how does that really affect the game? You know what I'm saying? What offside was brought in for is for stopping people goal hanging. And then that kind of got reduced. So I'm sort of thinking, because you're coming back about the officiating in Qatar, I'm thinking that we need to kind of think about the fan experience, the football experience, how it affects the game, and try and use technology to kind of enhance it rather than to completely control it.
Yeah, it's massive. The situation with VAR is frustrating for the general football supporter. It's needed, but the people sort of running it on a day-to-day basis still don't seem to have a full grasp of it, do they? Let's get back to our game tomorrow at 3:00, because obviously the big news out of the Brentford camp that Pontus Jansson looks to be out for the rest of the season. How's that going to affect you tomorrow, Bill?
I'm not sure how much it's going to affect us, actually. The way that it might affect us, well, I say might, is that we went 3 at the back with Pontus, but Pontus has actually been out for most of the season. He's been out for, I think, the best part of a year, and he's only recently just come back. So he's come back into the game, and he got that injury, and everyone went, "Oh no!" But it's almost like we love Pontus, because Pontus was the first sign of Brentford taking things up a level when we were in the Championship, to say, actually, we're taking seriously about going to the Premier League, because he was always seen to us as a sort of Premier League type player, whereas Brentford always used to buy, blind players who are kind of no one ever heard about, and then we kind of made them stars as such. But he was the person, he was playing for Leeds. They weren't in the Premier League as such, but he was like Pontus Jansson. So when we bought him, Leeds fans were really upset. We were really happy, and it was that taking that next level. So he's a great leader. He loves the team. He loves Malmo as well. And for us, that was a great stepping up. He was great for us, in particular in the first season in the league. And I'm not saying this in a disrespectful way, but then he's been out for a while, and Brentford have kind of almost like learnt how to manage without him. And we brought in some great players as well. So him coming into the side was almost a little bit like, right, where are we going to fit Pontus in? Put him at 3 at the back. He was playing possibly not maybe where he should naturally play, but we already had a player that played in that position. So him being out Thomas may bring in another player into central defence. He could bring Lionel, who has been injured, and he might play because he's playing multiple positions. We got Zanka, who's a very good player as well, who might come into that position. Or we might go back to 4 at the back, which is how we traditionally play: your 2 centre backs, then your two full backs. So I'm saying this respectfully. Pontus, I love Pontus, and I think he's wicked. And it's really sad to see him go. And all the fans are talking about they hope he does come back before the end of the season, so we can sing that last Pontus Jansson's Magic, you wear the magic hat song, about heading the brick and all that kind of stuff. So we hope he comes back. But he has already said he's off to Malmo. So at the end of the season, he's going to go off to Malmo, which is the club that he actually loves. He's a proper Malmo hardcore ultra. And when Brentford are playing, he flies over to Malmo and he literally stands in the terraces with his flair and everything like that with his buddies. So he's actually going back to Malmo to play for them, and probably stand in the terraces when he gets substituted off, So that's the score. But yeah, Pontus is great, but we have played without Pontus, and I'm going to say it's not a great loss, because I'm not going to say that, but I'm just going to say we've dealt with it before, which means that we'll probably let in 4 goals now tomorrow.
Obviously, Ben Mee scored your goal when we visited your stadium earlier on in the season. Do you expect you guys to be a back 5 tomorrow, or is it a back 2 centre halves of Pinnock and Ben Mee?
It depends on Thomas and what he's thinking. He knows.
In Thomas's shoes, Bill.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to beat you tomorrow. So I need to tell Lopetegui we're going to beat you tomorrow. So you need to tell us what you're going to play, so I can tell him.
If it's me, I'd go for the back 4, because me and Pinnock are just they're just unbelievable. I mean, Ben Mee is the best signing. He's pretty much the best Premier League signing by far. And we didn't pay anything for him. We got him from Burnley, and he is just next level. I mean, again, because he's a Brentford player, you think, he's only saying that it's Brentford. But, he's probably too old, but he could be playing for England because he is reliable. He's great in the air, his positioning. Honestly, he's such a brilliant player. So him and then Pinnock, Pinnock, you put something in the air and he's like head. He's so reliable as well. So put the 2 of them together, and I think that they're a great pair. So I'm going to see those 2 together, which means changing it up. But then I'm not Thomas Frank, so what did I know? I just managing grassroots football.
An absolute success story. Even Pinnock obviously used to play for Dulwich Hamlet. What players in that lineup there are you concerned about tomorrow, Luke?
I mean, obviously Tony is the standout, but I like De Silva as well. He impresses me pretty much every time I watch him. I think he's a danger man. So obviously, apart from Tony, De Silva for me, and I think you've got to be careful of Rico Henry as well. I think he's one that stands out for me as well.
Obviously, Bill, when I sent you my little audio snippet for the Besotted podcast, I did fawn over your number 9, Sharda. Tell the Wolves fans about Sharda if they don't already know.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's one of those players where, again, Brentford, they'd pluck it out. We tried to sign him, I think, 1 window ago. There's rumours about signing him, and we picked him up this window. He came from Freiburg, who are, in the top of the Bundesliga, but again, one of those unfashionable sides. And so we've picked him up from there. It's, I think, one of those sort of kind of loan signings with a view to sign him, which in effect basically means, try him and buy him, I think it is. But the thing is, he is, as the phrase, shit off a shovel. You know what I'm saying? He is so fast. What we have to do with these players, we bring them in and they're never normally ready to play straight away. Even Damsgaard, who scored a free kick against England in the European Cup semi-final, and he plays for us, and we've had to have him, and we had to put him in the team for 6 or 7 months. Playing for a long period of time before he's actually even been properly match ready. So it's the same thing with Sharda, where what he's done is that we put him on the bench and then we bring him off and we pay him 10 minutes there, 5 minutes there, 10 minutes there, and just bet him and bet him. And every time we bring him on, he's looking more and more and more dangerous. Then I think we started him a few weeks ago. I think he played against Fulham. He set up a couple of goals. You put him down the wing and he just literally just rinses people. He rinses them hardcore, but he's also learning how to kind of do the other things that you need to do up front. The rumor is that, if and when, I shouldn't say if and when Ivan Toney goes, because as we're Brentford, we know we can't keep a player like Ivan Toney, because when a big a supposed big team comes knocking with a big wheelbarrow of cash, we will sell. It's unfortunate us fans because we like to hold on to our players as much as possible because you build up a relationship with them. But he is going to go at some stage. But the rumor is that Sharda, or the rumor is what we've heard is that Sharda, they're actually sort of gearing him up to become the new Ivan Toney. So he kind of plays at the moment more maybe on the wings at the moment now. But then Ollie Watkins, when we first signed him, he actually played out on the wing. And then when Maupay left to go to Brighton, they actually moved him in and he trained him up to play in the middle of the pitch. So I think he could play anywhere across the front. But at the moment, he plays as more of a winger. But he's a very good player. Or you could see potentially he's a very good player. But let's see how he does on Saturday because you've got some good players.
We have, Bill. The greatest team the world's ever seen, Luke. That team on the left, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Obviously, João Gomez and Mario Lemina were the midfield pivot for us last week. If we was to get another win tomorrow, how does Ruben Neves get back in his side, Luke?
I don't think he does. It's a difficult one because at the end of the day, it's Neves, isn't it? He's a fantastic player, captain. But with how Lemina and Gomez played last week, do you really want to disrupt it when we need to sort of build up a bit of a run to get some points on the board now? It's a really, really difficult one because I feel anyone could feel hard done by who started last week if there was to miss out this week. But I don't know. Even if you say, would you go Lemina and Neves, it's harsh on Gomez. If you try Neves and Gomez, it's harsh on Lemina. Me personally, as much as I love Neves, as much as I think he's fantastic, I would stick with Gomez and Lemina. And it's one of them. Unfortunately, in football, these things happen. And if you can't manage your discipline or your injuries or whatever, and that forces you out the team, and then you struggle to get back into it, that's just how the cookie crumbles in football, and you've got to wait for your opportunity. So, I mean, excuse me, I'm struggling to see why we should change the team from last week.
I mean, the midfield dynamic was it was clear to see it benefited Matheus Nunes last week. It's like you said, I thought João Gomez was that good against Chelsea. That was the only reason Mario Lemina got substituted, because João Gomez was that outstanding last week. Like you said, Lemina has been massive for us, similar to Craig Dawson since the January transfer window occurred. Obviously, Hee-Chan Wang made his return from injury last week, coming on for Daniel Podence later in the game. Who's your front three for tomorrow, based on the fact that Diego Costa played quite well against Chelsea last week?
Yeah, I think... Yeah, I would give Costa another chance. I mean, obviously he hasn't got the legs for the 90 minutes, but I still think he's got a half decent 60 in him. And then with Podence and Kuna sort of just off him. I think it just changes the dynamic a little bit. Obviously, it's well known that we struggle in the final third. We're absolutely terrible. But with our sort of lack of options through the middle, me personally, I would go with Costa over Jimenez anyway. I think Jimenez is done. For me, if he never played for Wolves again, I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. And I would persevere with Costa over Jimenez.
Any sort of option for you of starting Cunha down the middle and starting Podence and Wang?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's an option, isn't it? Because even though Kuna doesn't look like a natural number 9, I wouldn't say that he's done bad when he's played there. He's certainly done no worse than Jimenez or Costa. I think they're all on a par when they play through the middle. Wang, I like Wang because he does give you that extra energy up front, that press to win the ball back. But are Brighton going to be playing out from the back tomorrow? I know they do like to play football, but away from home, will they be a little bit more direct and try and break that line into the midfield third quicker? It's a difficult, because even Traore, now I know Traore is like Marmite with our fan base, but with Rico Henry's pace, I'd want to keep, and I know Rico Henry likes to get forward as well. Whereas with Traore, I always find the left backs are a lot more cautious to venture up the pitch. So if Traore starts, does he pin Rico Henry back? And Henry is a quick player. I can't see Sarabia, for example, if he was to start, or even Wang doing him for pace. I think Henry would cope with them sort of in the physical battle, but Traore would help to pin him back.
What are the duels that stand out for you tomorrow, Bill, in regards to sort of Luke's mentioned there, sort of Adama versus Rico Henry? You got sort of Norgard versus sort of Lamina. Where's the game won tomorrow in regards to what duel's going to stand out the most tomorrow?
But it's interesting you having your conversation about Traore, because we always have a nightmare against Traore, you know what I'm saying? So the fact that he didn't play last game, I was thinking, hey, thank God for that, because I don't know. It's sometimes, it's like certain players, you come up to a team and you say, oh, I'm afraid of such and such. And they'll say, oh, he's been terrible for us. He's been awful for us. You'll be all right. And then you go, we've always had a nightmare against him. And then what happens is that he has a brilliant game against us. So that's kind of the thing that'll happen. It's interesting you talk about the battle there, you're saying, between him and Rico. I mean, Rico does like to get forward if that is the type of game that we are playing. But obviously, interestingly, down that side, he's still got. You've also got Sharda as well, So you've got an interesting sort of combination of these two super fast players playing down that wing. So how Thomas, may or may not play it during the game, depending on who may be on your side. I don't know. Again, talking about players, obviously, Nunes had a great game. He's been playing great. Gomez, again, great player. These are players that you've got to kind of watch out for, for us, just going against players, defensively, how will it's interesting because I don't know, because if Sharda plays, interestingly, they've actually rested Brian Mbumo. And normally for every game, you'd always have Tony and Mbumo, Tony and Mbumo and somebody else, but Mbumo actually got rested. I think, which is interesting. I think, which is actually quite good for him. So it'll be interesting to see kind of who is going to be coming up against your centre backs and how Tony and whoever will be dealing with your centre backs. Dawson, you've got Kilman as well. So there's going to be quite a few little interesting battles there. Ivan Toney, as you know, yes, he does score goals. Yes, he does score penalties, other than last week when he missed the penalty. It was the first penalty I think he's missed in 475,027 days. So that was quite frustrating, sitting in a Holland.
I think I went with 2,000 years on your podcast earlier, Bill.
That's right.
He's a ridiculous technique, Luke, Ivan Toney with penalties.
Great player. Yeah. Go on, Bill.
And it's interesting, so you mentioned that it's technique, because when he took the penalty and then he missed it, and we talked on the podcast, we goes, that was actually that was rubbish, wasn't it? We all went, we sort of laughed, that was rubbish, because we thought at some stage he's going to have to miss a penalty, and as long as he doesn't miss it against Fulham, which is a few weeks ago, then that's fine. So you thought, what a terrible penalty. I mean, it's like the goalkeeper knew where it's going and he dived for it. But then we got a little clip from one of our listeners today. I don't know if he managed to post it up as yet. And he said, did you notice? And I don't know if he got his microscope out when he was watching the game. As Tony went up to take the penalty, the wind took the ball and it moved the ball. So the ball wasn't where it was. And if you notice, Ivan Toney, he doesn't look down when he takes penalties. He just looks straight ahead. So the wind moved the ball, and it obviously wasn't at the spot that he thought it was going to be. So interesting. So if we get a penalty tomorrow, I suppose you need to get your wind blowers out, you need to get your big fans out, probably beside the flamethrowers that you've got, which keeps taking our eyebrows out every time.
It has been windy up here the last couple of days, so yeah. So we can cry on Mother Nature.
We had a comment 18 minutes ago, and it seems quite apt at this moment. It's Andrew Knight. I'm calling BS on that, Billy.
What exactly was he referring to, Andrew?
I think he was talking about the dark arts earlier and David Raya's glove. But to be honest, if you're going to sort of blame the wind for Ivan Toney missing a penalty, then you're You're
I'm telling you, he doesn't. If you look at him, he doesn't look at the ball. He doesn't. That's his whole thing. He just looks up. It's like really weird. It's like, mate, you know, but he's kind of just got it like that. So I'm gonna have a look at this video and I'll see what it's right, and I'll send it over to you, and you can see. You can send it over to your director of football, you know, later tonight, and they can get your wind blowers out. You know, get all the fans blowing from the terraces.
Maybe it was Uri Geller in a helicopter like Euro '96.
That's an idea. Actually, there's a helicopter. Tell you something. Talk about helicopters. There was a drone. Remember, there was a drone when we played you last season. The mad game at New Griffin Park, and there's like the game got stopped because there was a drone, and there's all sorts of nonsense that was going on, and they were going to call the game off. It was like really bizarre.
Yeah, it was an absolutely bonkers game. Obviously, the drone delayed the game for a few minutes. I think there was about 8 concussion injuries during the game. It was just it felt like the longest day ever, and I was drunk from about 11 a.m. that day because we was on the R8 train from Birmingham New Street that day. Obviously, it's another big weekend. Premiers on the fixtures up on the screen. Quick second, I think the early kickoff tomorrow is the Wolverhampton to Newcastle. Is there any other games this weekend, guys, that stand out for you?
I don't even know.
Well, I'll have to pull up the fixtures.
Either of you?
Yeah, hold on a second. I'll have a little look to see what's happening. I mean, obviously, the Newcastle. You tell something. Newcastle game's interesting because I mean, I wasn't actually at the. I like to be. I mean, I go to pretty much every single game, so it was a bit weird not being at the game on Saturday. And because I feel when you're at the game, even though you can watch on TV, you get much more of a feel for a team because you can see what's going on in and around, just not only where the cameras focus, but be speaking to our characters and also listening to the Pride of West London podcast, Pride of West London, where you can listen to where the fans are talking back. They were saying that Newcastle were okay, but they weren't as good as they thought they were in the match. And they thought that, you know, I said, were they top 4? And they said, you know, Champions League quality. They said, look, not taking anything away from them. They've got some good players, but they thought that they weren't necessarily kind of a Champions League quality side. And maybe the fight for 4th place in that Champions League should still be open with a few teams going out for it. So that Villa game could be interesting, especially with a bit of, you know, a resurgence from Villa, you know, and them looking for their European tour, you know, Ollie Watkins scoring, you know, sort of kind of 45 goals in 46 games or something stupid. But that's interesting. But down here, we've obviously got Crystal Palace, which is another one of the London sides. And they keep on talking about their fear of relegation, which I think is absolute nonsense. I think they've got about 9% chance of relegation or something stupid on the stats models out there. But they're playing Southampton, who are obviously rock bottom. And Southampton are one of those teams which they're rock bottom. So you go there and you expect to pick up 3 points. But on the other hand, Southampton are a team where you can go there. They can actually upset things if they actually get results because they've got, you know, if they're you know, if they're down, they've got nothing to worry about anymore. So that game I think could be quite crucial for the rest of the season because if Crystal Palace sort of beat them, they're going to pretty much be down Southampton and they can just go around and have a laugh and they'll probably end up taking points of Man City and Chelsea and, you know, Liverpool and everybody else who kind of needs to pick up points. So I think that's going to be interesting.
I think Chelsea Brighton could be an interesting one as well. I mean, that will be a good test for Brighton. To, you know, if they could go to Stamford Bridge, get a result, really show their credentials as a team that deserve Europe on the back of this season, and to see Chelsea push further into the mud would make my weekend anyway. Because the sooner all of these sort of European Super League clubs self-implode, the better.
I love the Leeds Liverpool's a biggie.
Yeah,
I think it's a really big, and obviously I say it's for you because I mean I don't think you're going down again. You've got like 10%
at the moment, but in regards to who's going to win the title,
say it again.
Who do you think is going to win the title? Arsenal or Man City? Where are you putting your money?
I think it's going to. I personally think it's going to be Arsenal. Actually, I think it's going to be Arsenal. I think it's going to swing each way, but I think it's going to be Arsenal. I think they just need to. I think they've had a bit of a wobbly patch. They've been a bit of a dodgy patch, but I think they just need to hold their nerve. They were the best side that we played this season, but we played them quite early on. So when we played them in September, they beat us 3-0, and we just put our hands up, said like, they were really good. And ever since then, the only other side that's better than them has been Brighton. And when we played them at their place, they weren't actually as good. Now, I know you can't take things just to one game, but they were okay. Manchester City, yes, they've got the machines, and they've got the Haaland and all that kind of stuff they've got. I've just Man City just leave me cold. And I know, it sounds like I'm not a footballing person, but it's kind of like, I almost like prefer your Liverpools who like score 3 and let in 3. I'm saying there's a bit of excitement. There's a bit of sort of machinery going on around Man City, which is, listen, it's great. And they've got these great players, and it's like the Monopoly game. They just get all the money, spend it up, get all the best things, and they buy it. But for me, Man City, I'm not sure. I think Arsenal, for a bit of variety, they need to win the league.
Yeah, Man City have become that sort of team now, haven't they? 2-3 seasons ago, everyone was sort of mesmerised by their ability to obliterate teams with possession and just blow teams away. But it's just become a bit, they've beat someone 7-0 again, classic Man City. Erling Haaland scored another hat-trick, boring Man City. Yet they're still probably going to bottle the Champions League because that's just what Pep ends up doing by trying to be too cute. The other game that stands out for me this weekend is West Ham Arsenal, because obviously West Ham played in the Europa Conference League last night. They need the points massively, but Arsenal need to pick up. They need to get back to winning ways, but which they have done every time they've dropped points earlier on in the season, Bill.
Yeah. I mean, they do. I mean, at the end of the day, I think, I'm quite surprised to see them down there. I mean, last season, and just talking about, they're in the Europa Conference League as you talk about it. I mean, everyone's laughing about Brentford might go into Europe. I know you guys got into Europe quite early on in your sort of Premier League career. I'm actually don't want us to go to Europe. I kind of want us to as a fan, but I don't want us to as a club, because I think it could ruin us this early in the day, because we haven't got a big enough squad. And I don't know whether or not it actually ruined West Ham going into Europe, because they had loads of games last season. They played loads of games. They did really well. They got really far. But all of a sudden this season, they're just like, they literally haven't recovered from it. And, we've seen it with other teams as well where they do that. So West Ham, they're a funny side. They're technically, again, I don't see them going down, not because they're West Ham, just because I think there are too many other teams in and around who just literally don't seem to be able to win. Nottingham Forest, I thought they'd be out of this and gone, but all of a sudden they literally can't seem to pick up a draw or a win or anything at the moment now. Obviously, you've got Everton who are dodgy. You've got Southampton. You've got a few other teams around there. So I think that West Ham, they need the points, but I don't personally think that they're going to be the team in the drop zone. Even I think Leeds United are actually in even more trouble than them, even though statistically wise, Leeds are only about 25% chance of relegation now. Whereas, like I said to you, Forest are about 55 or 60% or something massive, I don't think. But only takes is 2 more losses for a team like Leeds, and all of a sudden they're right in the mix. But I think West Ham, they'll be all right. And if they pick up a point against Arsenal, I think they'll be very, very happy.
I think you look at West Ham's got a really tough run in their game in hands against Man City. I think West Ham are in it, and I feel like a lot of their players might have their mindset on the Conference League more than the importance of the Premier League. I said, look, I just mentioned, you look at their running; they've got a tough run in. Going back to your point, Bill, about you not wanting to get Brentford not to make the Europa. I'm going to find the comment from Andrew Knight again. I'm calling BS on that, Billy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. For a man who's travelled the world watching England and Brentford like you have, for you not to want Brentford in Europe is bullshit, Bill. I'm not having it.
I want to be there, but I don't want the team to be there. Does that make sense? So it's like the head and the heart thing that's going on.
No, it makes no sense, Bill, because it doesn't matter, because you'll have had Europe with Brentford, and if Brentford did go tits up, you'd still be there following them in League One and League Two, wouldn't you?
But it's just true, which is true. You know what I'm saying? And there's no argument with that one.
When we had our Europa League tour a few years ago, going to places like Torino, Braga, Espanyol, the 48 who travelled to Armenia to play FC Punic. You can't buy moments like that, Bill. Yeah.
Okay. Listen, I'll do that. I'd like to say that maybe we just put it off for 365 days. You know what I'm saying? That's right. Let's just keep ourselves consolidate. Which is one of the sort of catchphrases that they use.
We're not far off approaching the hour mark now, so I'm going to come to the part of the show which I hate doing the most, which is the score predictions round. I think I predicted Wolves 1-0 on the Besotted podcast, Bill, so I'm going to come to you. What's your score prediction for tomorrow?
on the Besotted podcast as well, Pride of West London, I have actually predicted 2-0 to Brentford. And I'm going to explain, because I'm not coming to your podcast. I'm not doing the manners, as we call it. You know what I'm saying? Not at all. It's just that every podcast I predict 2-0 and I've got it wrong every single week so far. And so it's kind of one of those ones where I'm a bad gambler, where you keep on putting money on the same kind of on the black 32 every single time and it doesn't come in. So I'm going to 2-0 to Brentford, hoping that finally 2-0 might actually come in. Which is probably good for you, actually, because I seem to get it wrong every week.
So you've literally guessed 2-0 Brentford every week. Have Brentford won games when you've predicted 2-0, but you've won like 1-0 or 3-1 or anything?
They've won games, but they've never actually. I've never got it nailed on the head. You know what I'm saying?
I was hoping you were just jinxing them completely. Then I'm saying I'm all for that, Bill. What's your score prediction for tomorrow, Luke?
Do you know what? 3-1 Wolves. I think, are we going to turn up tomorrow? We've turned a corner now. We're going to turn up tomorrow. And I think Brentford, whilst they've been great this season, they've been absolutely fantastic. Is it that now we're coming into the tail end of the season, they might get a little bit relaxed, feel a little bit comfortable? So, and I think Brentford might come into this game a little overconfident as well.
We've got Andrew Knight in the comment section again, still coming for Bill. 2-0 Billy. I smell more bullshit, lad.
They're gonna come here as the favourites, but we've got to remember, in the grand scheme of things, we're massive, mate. Wolves are massive. We're back 3-1 Wolves.
We've got Adam Jones in the comment section. 2-0 Steve Ball to get a brace. I mean, we would just love that tomorrow, wouldn't we?
Robbie Dennis.
Adam, I hope you're feeling a lot better, my friend. I know you're struggling. You've ended up having to have a bath because you're struggling that ill. That's unlike you. I know you're more of a sharer man. I hope you're good. I'll speak to you soon, my friend. I hope you're not feeling too rough. As I said,
talking of Steve Ball, I remember we played Wolves in our very first game back into what's now the Championship. Division, was it first division, Division 1 at the time? We got promoted from the third tier to the second tier, and our first game at home was Wolves, and Steve Ball, I remember, scored against us in that game to send us. I don't know if we drew or if we lost in that game. I can't remember. All I remember is going for a curry afterwards, but I think we lost because we were really disappointed in the curry because we were very excited about the match. And then Steve Bully.
What end of the stadium did he score behind you, Bill?
I'm pretty sure that he scored in. And we used to stand in the side bit, which is the new road, which was standing at the time. And I'm pretty sure that he scored in the right-hand side, which was the end where the away fans were at the time, I believe. But then somebody else who maybe was at the game might be able to correct me on that one. But I just remember the disappointment because we were so excited to be, in that division, the highest we'd ever been in my whole lifetime. And the first match, Bully came, and I'm pretty sure it was Bully, and he scored a goal to actually send us home crying.
It was 2-0 Wolves that finished, Bill, on the 15th of August, 1992.
There you go. That's right.
I know. I don't want to sort of offend you, Bill. I know you're not a young guy, but did you go to Italian 90?
I did go to Italian. Italian 90. Yes, I did go to Italian 90 as well. Yeah, so I went to Italian 90. I was just to the right of the goal that England took the penalties in against Germany in the semi-final. I went to the Anglo-Italian Cup that Brentford played in 1992 as well. We went to Ascoli as well, which was a bizarre trip as well. There was 900 fans in the stadium, 600 Brentford fans, 300 Ascoli fans, and about 7,240 police. It was the most bizarre experience I've ever had. And it's played on a Wednesday lunchtime at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon where everyone is at work. I couldn't understand that one.
And this guy doesn't want Brentford back in Europe, folks. He went to watch Brentford versus Ascoli on a lunchtime in the early 90s, and he doesn't want European football back.
I said yes.
Bill, England would have won Italian 90 if Bobby Robson had brought Steve Bull on, correct?
Yeah, mate. Tell you something, we were all over Bully, mate. We love Bully. Bully, I thought Bully was great. And at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of snobbery around particular players from particular teams at that time. And for me, especially as a Brentford fan, you don't care. You just like, listen, I just want anyone who does the job. So Steve Ball for me, just get him on. So get him on. So, we had a really good team that year. You have to admit, though, England had a really good team, and they were unlucky. Penalties, you're unlucky. You're really unlucky. But hey, but then it's carried on for another God knows how many years after that, and it's still unlucky.
You've just give away your game, Luke, that you're looking at old Wolves Brentford fixtures on your phone. So I'd like you to put your phone down for the next few minutes as we close the show with this week's sudden death squads. Bill, if you're not sure of the game, basically I pick a previous game between Wolves and Brentford, and you have to pick a player that started in the game on that day. If you pick a player that was a substitute that day and came on, you have to go again. It's basically sudden death. You have to name a player, and the game that I picked was Brentford 0, Wolves 3 from the League One champions winning season in February 2014. So you have to pick a player that featured in that game. Bill, I'm going to come to you first as you're our guest.
Harley Dean.
Let me just get the team up for a second. Harley Dean started for Brentford that day. Over to you, Luke. If you are in the comment section and you know an answer, quickly drop it in while we play.
Scott Goldborn.
Scott Goldborn was left back for Wolves that day. It's back to you, Bill.
God, I should really know. Alan Judge.
Alan Judge was centre midfield, I believe, that day for Brentford. Luke.
Michael Jacobs.
Michael Jacobs, I believe, scored an absolute top bins that day in front of the Wolves away fans. Back to you, Bill.
Oh, I'm just wondering whether or not I'm going to go. I'm going to go sort of not left field there, but did Kev? I was going to say, did Kev O'Connor play?
He was on the bench and did not feature, Bill, unfortunately. Luke, to get the win today, name a player that featured in the game between Brentford and Wolves in February 2014.
Starman, Matt Doherty.
Luke, he was on the bench and did not come on. Back to you, Bill.
That season, I'm just trying to make sure. Let's see if Clayton Donaldson.
Clayton Donaldson was up front for Brentford that day.
Right, I've got
Vinny Parker saying Vinny Parker's got a correct answer. Josh Rodriguez is saying Fabio Silva. Fabio Silva would have been about 2 back then.
Kevin McDonald.
Kevin McDonald did play for Wolves that day.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, God, my mind. It was a goal. Okay, Jake Bidwell.
Jake Bidwell did play for Brentford that day. Luke.
I still can't believe Matt Doherty didn't come off the bench that game. If Doherty's on the bench, then Sam Ricketts had to have played.
Yeah, captain for Wolves that day. It's back to you, Bill.
What's his name?
Vinny Parker.
My mind's just going absolutely. What's his name? Oh God, actually, did he play that season? I think he did, and he came to. This is 2014, so this is the season 3-0. Oh no, this is the first season in the championship, isn't it? This is the first season.
This is where we went on to win League One.
That's right. Okay, so there was what's his name? No, what's his name? It was oh God, and he left us. He ended up bloody joining you. God, my mind's got on my mind. This is you can see that right. These quiz shows that you go kind of all over the shop, don't you? So you got promoted. You've got promoted. I'm just 2014. Bidwell.
It's a live stream and an audio episode.
I know. Yeah, I'm just. Oh God! I tell you something. My mind has absolutely just gone because you've thrown me with this one.
The funniest thing there, Billy, the fact that you know the player who joined Wolves from Brentford and you can't think of his name.
No, and the thing is, he was in our video. We talked to him all the time, and my mind's just gone completely blank. He's in a God, and I'm now fixated on trying to get hold of God, what was his name? We got him from Chelsea, and it's just absolutely people are probably throwing answers.
I know who he is. I know who he is.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I do know who you're talking about.
I'm going to have to push you, Bill, because I want to have my tea.
I'll tell you something. I want to have my bleeding tea as well. So tell you something. Let me just tell you something. Let me give me seconds. And Dunderson and Adam Forshaw. Adam Forshaw.
I'm taking Adam Forshaw.
Adam Forshaw. He'd left. He'd left by then. Okay, Adam Forshaw, but I think he left the summer before.
Name that player that Billy can't think of.
Do I win if I name it?
No, just go back to Bill.
Right, I'm going to annoy you now, Bill.
I know you are.
Saville.
George Saville. Oh, George Saville.
Was correct. Come on, Bill. I've got to push you for a quick answer this time.
Oh, did I? You didn't take me Forshaw because I said Forshaw, but I think he'd left.
No, you had Forshaw. Luke's had George Saville. It's back to you.
Oh God! So I've given it. Oh no, you've fluffed it, haven't I? I've given you the answer. I've given you something. Hopefully that's there's something. I can give you the 3 points, and hopefully the only 3 points you get this weekend. Oh God! Let's say we've got Alan Judge.
Timer on.
That's right. Let's go. You got Alan Judge, and then you scored the goal. Let's finish this up. I'm just trying to think. Was it in goal? Was it? I think it was Dave. And I should really know this. Was that season before we went up? Was it Button? Was it David? Was it David Button?
I'm taking the answer as David Button. It's a correct answer. The current West Bromwich Albion goalkeeper.
Terrible.
Terrible.
So bad. Okay, then. If this is wrong, then I think I've been really unlucky. Dicko
was up front for Wolves that day. Correct answer.
Oh, you got Dicko. God.
You've only got about 2, 3 or 4 left now, Bill.
That's right. Okay, so no, Jota. No, before Connors, Jota, they go. No, I don't know if he played. Was Alan McCormack in the side?
It's another correct answer, but it's back to you, Luke. God. The longest Southern Death squads we've had this season. It gets longer and longer every week.
Right now, this geezer, I'm sure this geezer played because on the highlights, I'm sure he does a bit of trickery with Scott Goldborn, Bakary Sacco.
Yeah, he was there. He was there.
I think he may have been wearing his Diamante boots that day.
That's right. I was about to say, he was actually wearing the Diamante boots because I remember speaking to the London Wolves about it, and they were very excited about that. Right, you pushed me into a bit of a corner here now because I'm having to rack my trains, and all the Bees fans are thinking, "Come on, Bill, what's going on? You must remember." Said about Dean and
one, maybe 2.
Yeah. Two Brentford players left now.
Right. Now, this is the thing is I can't remember if he'd left by this stage or if we waited till we went up. Tony Craig, was he still there then?
Tony Craig is a correct answer.
He's killing me. Right. I'm going to go for my arch nemesis, who has caused me years of ridicule. Now he's probably going to add to this ridicule, but I'm going to say James Henry.
James Henry is a correct answer.
Oh, you're joking.
You have to get the remaining player, Bill, to stay in the game, and it may be the first ever game that we have to class as a draw on Sudden Death Squad.
So I've got to go. Oh my God, I've got to. Oh my word. So right back, we got Bidwell. We've got. Oh dear, you are absolutely. Yeah. I think you may have me here because my brain is gone. Jota hadn't come at that stage. we've got McCormack in there. We've got somebody up. Somebody on the right.
Vinnie Parker's comment ring any bells? Does Vinnie Parker's comments, notoriously windy day, bring any players back to mind in that windy Griffin Park in February 2014? I'm going to have to push you, Bill.
Windy day. That windy day.
That I had a clue. I'm just trying to egg you on quick.
Oh, okay. I thought Vinny was trying to help us there. Come on. Go on, start passing some papers underneath the table. Yeah, it's the time is running out. I tell you something. All I know, it was, and my brain's just gone. It's on the right. It's on the right hand side, and it would have been. You've got Alan Judge on the left, then you got. Oh God, my brain. Oh, I can't.
Luke,
I've got.
Get the next question. You better get the next player right, Luke.
I've got to, because I've saved the goalkeeper till last, and he surely couldn't have been far off and ever present this season. Carly Keeman.
So that's correct, Bill. You've got to get this to draw this week's sudden death squads. I'm giving you to the time that I do 10 seconds with my fingers like this.
Okay, so all right, okay, so okay, say something.
2 seconds.
He may not have Diagoraga. I think he might have left by then.
Unfortunately, Bill, the player that you have neglected to reference in this week's sudden death squads, which Luke has won, is number 29, Trotter.
Of course. Oh my God, I could forget him.
Is he the one who missed the penalty against Doncaster?
He's the one that missed the penalty, so that's probably why you put it to the back of your head. You put it to the back of your head, and also
look at the way that BBC have got Wolves lined up here. Yeah, Goldborn and McDonald centre half, Michael Jacobs up front with Nua Dicko and Jack Price centre mid. Obviously, we've already mentioned David Button in goal, Clayton Donaldson with George Saville, and number 29 Trotter is the player that's cost Bill this week's sudden death squads. I hope you've enjoyed our 1 hour and 6 minute bumper episode this evening, which has been 40 minutes of sudden death squads on the FWAW Fancast match preview episode with myself, Luke, and Billy Grant from the Besotted podcast. I hope you all have a great weekend, whatever you get up to. If you're not at Molineux, have a great weekend. Stay safe. Bill, are you travelling up tomorrow?
I am. I'm managing my girls' football team, Barnet Panthers. So we got a game first thing in the morning, and then I'm going to jump in the car straight away and jump up with my man Laney, who does Besotted. We'll probably be listening to one of your various podcasts on the way up, and then fingers crossed we'll come up, have a few drinks, and then in the boozer by the station, and then we'll go to the game. So we're looking forward to that.
As I always say, have a great day apart from your side's footballing performance. Let's take one more look at Luke's cracking volley in his training for our charity match on June the 2nd. Wallop, vamos. Let's go, Luke Thompson. Thanks for joining us on the Wolves Fancast. As always, follow us at Wolves Fancast, a part of the 90 Min Network. Stay safe. Up the Wolves.
Thanks for having us.
See you later.
And there's one more thing. We've just broke 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. Like the video before you leave, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for joining us. Up the Wolves.